This is just going to be a quick conversation about power levels in Marvel Champions. Now, here's the thing. We've done this for fun, like on the channel before. I think we've done it on live streams over on twitch.tv/D20 Woodworking, where we kind of tier listed out. I don't think I've ever made an official tier list of power rankings before. If I have, it's been a while, and there's a reason for it. Now I still make tier listings based off of fun because I like fun, and everything in this game is basically subjective. What I feel is the best hero, or the strongest hero, may not be what you feel is the best hero or strongest hero. So I always think that tier rankings are kind of for a power scale, let me rephrase that, is kind of weird. And I've had a lot of people ask me recently, either in Discord, join the Discord, links down below, or like I said, the live streams or wherever else, that am I going to do a video like that at some point? Honestly, probably not. And the reason being is because, well, there's actually a bunch of reasons. One, would it do well in the algorithm and I would get a lot of clicks and whatnot? Yeah, it absolutely would. Would it probably spur on a lot of hate? Yeah, probably. Because I think there's a lot of controversy over what the most powerful heroes are. And that's because we have very loose definitions of power, I feel like, in the game. And I know a lot of people are going to be going, no, we don't, D20. You just think Valkyrie is the strongest. And that's why your view on everything is warped. And I get that argument. But what I think it really comes to is that what makes the most powerful hero, right? The fact that the hero can beat any villain. You can make the argument almost any hero can beat any villain. If you have enough tries and have like the perfectly tuned deck, I'm pretty sure almost any hero can beat any villain at some point. So you need to refine that. Okay, if they could do it the first time, well, even Doctor Strange can lose to, Absorbing Man with just some bad card draw, like going in the player deck and in the encounter deck, right? Like it can happen. So that can't really be it either. I'm sure there's some scientific way we could do it by running a bunch of simulations over and over and over, and maybe that's how you do it. But again, because of how aspect cards are and certain aspect card strengths, you're going to kind of run into a wall, in my opinion. For example, Shield Justice deck, I would argue any hero that uses a Shield Justice deck is probably going to be a B tier hero. Right? Even if okay, let's just say you, for whatever reason, think Valkyrie is the weakest hero in the game power level wise. Okay. But if I run her in a Shield Justice deck, there is no shot she is a quote unquote D tier hero because Shield Justice is that strong, right? It's that good. That I would argue that almost any deck that uses those cards becomes like at the very least, a high C, probably a low B, even if they themselves are not shield because it's so well just balanced in itself. You know what I mean? Like just shield by itself can do so many things and is so strong that it doesn't really matter what the hero is doing, and they're just doing extra stuff past that. So that's one issue I see. The other issue I see is, well, how do you judge it? Because of how villains work. So, for example, I think Spider Man Miles Morales is one of the strongest heroes in the game if you're not facing a stalwart villain, right? And that's a big if. Being able to stun and confuse an enemy repeatedly over and over and over is incredibly strong. And being able to do that to a steady villain and then do 1 for 8 damage, even stronger, arguably. There's a lot that he can do. But when he goes against a stalwart villain, a lot of his kit is taken away. Does that make him suddenly bad? No, it makes him a bad matchup for certain things, but how do you grade that power level, right? You have to balance that out now. And then you have certain heroes where, okay, they're really strong, but they don't have status effect abilities. Are they now somewhat weaker, right? Like, are they not as good? Well, no, because it wouldn't affect them if they were going against a stalwart villain, right? It makes no difference. So why would you judge it that way? It's a really weird kind of thing to judge people on. Um, I think past that then is, do you judge them for solo or multiplayer? Right? I think there are heroes that in multiplayer are really, 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 really good at their one thing that they do. Right? Again, let's take the Hulk or Valkyrie example. They are some of the strongest as far as like just raw output of damage heroes out there in the game. Maybe not the strongest, we can argue about semantics later, but just bear with me for a second. In multiplayer, that's gonna be really, really good. In solo, you need a more balanced hero, right? So Valkyrie, I'm gonna have to find cards to either lean into her weaknesses, either using justice or using a lot of allies that can thwart whatever it may be, or I just kind of go, whole hog and just like go pure aggression and just try to slaughter the villain in like 2-3 turns, which you can absolutely do. Which brings up there's kind of broken strategies in solo gameplay too, where I can just rush every single villain in the game in like 2-3 turns with the same deck and win every single time. Doesn't matter what the hero is, the deck will be powerful enough to win. It's kind of a cheat. It's how I beat Ronin. I don't care. I don't like Ronin. That's what we're gonna do anyway. But that's just another point. Is just how do you judge for multiplayer versus solo? I would also argue, by the way, that every hero that's good in solo is better in multiplayer. I think that a well-rounded hero is generally speaking better in solo than multiplayer. Like I don't think there's any hero that's really great in solo but bad in multiplayer. Right? Does that make more sense? Maybe I should have phrased it that way, but I don't really think that is. But that's a whole sidebar. The last thing to really bring up with this is how do you judge power overall, right? Is it total output of damage? Is it the amount of threat? Is it the statuses, like we said? Is it how much they defend? Is it how much they take care of the board state? Is it dealing with minions? Is it dealing with side schemes? Is it how it interacts with aspect cards? But for example, let's take Doctor Strange, right? I know everyone's going to say like, well, Doctor Strange is the most powerful hero in the game. And to me, it depends. Or it depends heavily. One, Doctor Strange getting punched in the face once is going to die, right? Like he is a glass cannon. Can he do a lot of damage? Can he do status effect? Yeah, he can do a little bit of everything. His biggest thing right now is they can throw a bunch of toughs on the allies. So if you use the old strategy of getting multiple man out there, throwing a bunch of toughs on them, you're good for like 3 rounds, assuming, or actually really 6 rounds because they block once, knock tough off, right? Block again. Assuming you don't get hit with a pierce or anything like that, you're probably pretty good. There's also some other things that Doctor Strange can do that's really, really strong. Okay, strong hero. I think we can all agree on that. I would say he's not the strongest. I don't think he's really close to the strongest because I think heroes like Ironheart who get built out, and I hate building out, don't get me wrong, but you build out Ironheart to stage 3 and you have like the boots out and you have the gloves out. Every time you just exhaust, it removes threat and deals damage, but it's not an attack. It's not a thwart. So like stunning and confused doesn't matter. Like it's Ironheart's broken on stage 3, but I would argue that, and by the way, like her hero card for every single counter she has, right, where she just gets them for free. I mean, she's printing money by the end of the game. But every single card there, like if you just remove one of the counters, she just deals 2 damage, right? Like it's just it's kind of silly. It's silly strong. So anyway, I would argue that at the top end, Ironheart, one of the strongest heroes in the game. I mean, just absolutely busted. But getting to that point takes a little bit of time, takes a little bit of work, takes a little bit of effort. It's a bit slower. I think the same argument can be made with like Spider. I think Spider is an incredibly strong hero as well, but it takes a little bit of work. It takes a little bit of time to get to that point, right? I've seen people make the argument with Iron Man as well, that when Iron Man finally builds out and does everything now, I don't 100% agree with that one, but it's the same exact idea when you build out. I've been recently playing a lot of Magneto, and this is why a part of this comes up with Magneto, because a lot of people are like, oh, you should tier rank this with Magneto and whatnot. Magneto, starting off, is where it gets iffy. Once Magneto's built out, like a decent, like basic, card set, like he's bonkers good, right? He's bonkers good. This brings out another thing, though, that for Magneto to be that good, there's certain basic cards that I just have to run, right? In my belief, I have to run. I think X-Men, I think Web Warriors to a lesser extent, and Guardians have certain basic cards that you just need to run. Now, are they weaker without those cards? Yeah, I think so. But should they be included because they're trait lock cards and really no one else can use them, right? That starts like a whole nother conversation on this. So anyway, long story short of this is that do I have like an official power tier list of who I would say? No. And there's one other thing too that should be brought up. If you watch people like Web Warrior Fanatic, right? Let's just call him specifically. And he has made the argument that Cable is one of the strongest heroes in the game, right? And he has some gameplay to back it up, right? He has some great gameplay. I have played a lot of Cable. I cannot do what Web Warrior does. I can't. No matter how hard I play Cable, he does not click with me whatsoever. So I could never rank him in S tier power level. I couldn't. There's in my book, there's no way. It does not work. Every single time I play him, it never goes well. No matter how much I try to emulate Web Warrior's decks, I've used his decks. I've tried to play like he does. Him and I just have different play styles. I can't do it. I cannot get it to work. And the same way that Web Warrior has done comments on my videos about Valkyrie and he can't get to Valkyrie to work the way that I can, we have different perspectives of the heroes. So again, it's not even fair in that sense that I can't be totally objective, and I don't think anyone can really be, of a hero that I have never done well with. I've never done well with Cable. Now, I know I see a lot of people out there making the argument because they've seen Web Warrior play with him really incredibly well, and he does. There's no doubt about that. Same with Spider-Man, which some people have made the argument that Spider-Man's not S tier. Spider-Man I can at least play somewhat well, not as well as he can. But I can't sit there and say, okay, I see someone else play really well, so thus they must be S tier, right? To me, that doesn't work like that. It has to be from my perspective alone, because again, it'd be my tier power ranking list. So I think it's really, really hard to make that kind of list because again, out of everything we just covered there for the past 10-ish minutes, it's really hard for me to say, okay, this one is worth more, but this is worth less. Like my opinion's worth less, but this part's worth more. But we should look at a multiplayer setting, but also factor in. So like there's too many moving variables. So that's kind of my take on it. I'm just not the biggest fan of doing official power tier rankings, like stuff like that on the live stream. I don't mind it because I'm not going to turn into a real video, and it's just like us like goofing around and having fun. That's why you should hang out in the live stream community, or at least watch the live streams after the fact if you want to get my full opinion on a lot of things. That's why we'll do it there and whatnot. But doing like official ones and stuff like that, I think it's just, I don't think it can really be done as objectively as I would like it to be. Now, with that being said, am I going to be doing a fun tier ranking list soon? Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think those are the kind of the more interesting ones because we can all have our different perspectives and it's fun, and it's not like, hey, I'm right and you're wrong, or vice versa or whatever. So anyway, let me know your thoughts because I see this coming up more and more and more on different social media platforms and different content creator pages, whatever, where people are power ranking tier lists, right? And they're trying to do it as objectively as possible. And Godspeed for those that can do it. I just personally can't. But do you enjoy them? Two, do you think it's really possible to make it an objective tier list? And three, like, do you actually search for it on my channel? Because spoiler, it's not there. But watch the live streams. We talk about it now and again and where I would place them. And usually I don't go for like a full ranking list. Maybe we'll do that one live stream where we do it as a community and just like whatever. But do you ever search it out there? So anyway, appreciate all the support. Thank you for all the likes, subscribes, comments, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. We're getting near the end of the year. So all that stuff really helps closing out the year strong. And I will see you all next time.